Welcome one and welcome all to another Jimpressions video. A fan recently called these videos rambling, incoherent, low effort, and said they just stopped watching my videos months ago. That was days ago when they said that, and I haven't gotten over it. Anyway, this is Shakedown Hawaii. It should look very similar to anyone who played the developer's other work. This is made by V-Blank Entertainment, and they put out Retro City Rampage, which, full disclosure, my face is in that game. In Retro City Rampage, not this one. But this one, I've got to say, even though it doesn't have my beautiful visage in it, is a better game. Not only does it look better with a lot more detailed characters and a richly dense environment with a lot of animation going on and a very colourful, bright, instantly appealing, I think, in that retro way. It's also got a really fun narrative running through it. It's about as subtle as a sledgehammer to the knackers, but it's basically capitalist simulator. You play mostly as an old business emperor who looks a bit like old Scott Hall, there he is, who essentially sets out to own Hawaii, right down to the houses. And he does this with a very simple narrative structure. Pretty much the entire game is about old man Scott Hall getting conned in some way, and then getting angry about it, and then deciding to do it himself and pull off the same con with his own business. So, you know, he might buy a bottle of drink and realise it comes in a smaller bottle than it used to. And then he gets very angry about that, about how the price has stayed the same, but the product's gotten smaller, and then instantly he thinks, well, I could buy a beverage manufacturer and do the exact same thing. So that's pretty much how it goes. He'll stumble upon some new horrible business tactic, which has a basis in our own economic system, and then he'll go do it. And like I say, it's not subtle at all. It's very much, very similar to the Grand Theft Auto style of subtlety, where it's like, I am the character. They might as well be looking at the camera and say, I am the character doing the bad thing. I will do the bad thing now, and I will describe the bad thing, but I will describe it as if it's good. And but you know it's bad, and that's the joke. And it's pretty much that the entire way through, but it's still very entertaining. The lack of subtlety can add to the charm of it all. I will say, though, it's very stoppy-starty. And I think this is because it goes between cutscenes like this, fully rendered cutscenes, and bits of dialogue and transitory scenes that happen in the overworld with the in-game graphics. So it'll go to a cutscene, it'll then cut to you in the overworld and you're getting ready to play. Then it'll cut to the property map, like it's doing here. Then you think you might be able to play again, but then it might cut to another cutscene. And you just end up with this sort of frustrated feeling, like you're trying... That feeling where you're just about to sneeze, but then it settles down. And it can be like that with the gameplay. It loves its story a lot, and it feels sometimes like it puts that ahead of the gameplay, which might not have been so bad if the way it was presented was better, if it didn't keep cutting between the overworlds and the cutscenes and back again. But it's not a massive complaint, it just it leaves you itching to play. The other complaint I'd have is I don't like the gun combat. I didn't care for it in Retro City Rampage. It's better here, but the targeting system can get a bit too confused for my liking. You can manually fire, but the directions are limited. And there's a cover system, but even that's a little bit rudimentary. That said, it's still fun to play. It's fun to drive around a lot. I like just driving around the city. And it's got a simple but incredibly sprawling property management system, where you can go into the map and you will just be swamped with little dollar signs everywhere that indicate stuff you can purchase. And that's quite fun. Like I said, simple, but there's a lot of it. You go across the map, if you've got the money, of course, you just buy different properties and you can earn recurrent revenue from that, from your recurrent user spending. And you can buy houses, and if you buy enough, you can create a market shortage, which puts power in your hands as the property owner. And not a single element of running a ruthless business has been left on the table here. They cover everything, from lobbying to low-quality, unrefined goods to like targeted advertising, that comes up. Anything you can think of, this game's probably covered it, right down to loot boxes. It parodies plenty of in-game monetization as well. So there's pretty much everything you could want if you're someone like me who gets really pissed off at the excesses of capitalism and want a video game that says, we get it, we see it too, you're not losing your mind, which is always nice to see. So it's a little bit validating in that regard. So I say you mostly play the old Scott Hall, who right here is wearing a red hat and yellow clothes, because you can buy customised outfits. You also have a specific outfit for performing crimes, which in this case I've given myself a porn stash and a big yellow helmet for my own amusement and entertainment. You usually wear that costume when you perform shakedowns, the titular shakedowns, because some business owners don't want to sell. So you go into the store that doesn't want to sell, and you'll have to perform some sort of mini-game. Sometimes it's just a simple shootout, sometimes you have to destroy bits of the shop, or you have to run up to customers to annoy them. There's a lot you can do. And that's one of the game's charms, is despite the rather straightforward gameplay, with not very complex mechanics, there's a lot of variety with a limited set of tools. All sorts of mini-games to play, as I say, lots of property management, which itself will open up new ways to play the game. And there are 3 characters that you can play as well, at least as far as I've gotten in the game. You've got Old Man Scott Hall, you've got his son, and you've got a guy who goes out to fight cartel and get valuable documents to be used back in Hawaii. So there's a ton, and I really like the character designs. In the cutscenes, you just get really exaggerated caricatures of various business types, or just various people in general. And, I mean, like, you look at this scene here, we've got a presentation which will just go into the idea of commodifying foods and deciding almost arbitrarily what a superfood might be. It talks about how various ingredients and foodstuffs were cheap and fairly common until someone decided they should be for the rich and the privileged. Kind of like what happened to lobster. If you ever hear about lobsters, they used to be for poor people, and then someone decided they should be luxury, and then the poor people couldn't have them anymore. Gentrification, that comes up in this game as well. That's a whole part of the property buying aspect of it. Like I say, any base you could think of is probably covered by this game and satirised, not in a particularly clever way, as I've tried to suggest throughout. Not a smart way where you're just thinking, oh, that's... they've really nailed the insidious nature of it here. It's in your face, pants down, trousers up. I don't know what that meant, what at all I meant by that, but anyway, I like the vehicles. There's a lot of fun ones to drive. You can ride around in a go-kart if you want. You can ride around in a steamroller. That's my favourite one to drive. And you can colour them up. There's the pay and spray equivalent in this game. And I think I've said all that I need to say about it. I don't know if I can push this. Maybe I could ramble incoherently to push this to the arbitrary 10-minute limit. But if you're done hearing about the game, then you're done hearing about the game, so you can safely go away now. I've got to do Rage 2. I'm playing that after I've done this video. In fact, many of you are probably playing that and not watching this. Because yet again, I've foolishly done a video on an indie game, and it's also a positive video. So many people are just not all that bothered about it. I've exhausted everything I need to say. Good game, few flaws, very obvious in its tone, but that's part of the charm. And that's Shakedown Hawaii. I personally would recommend it, but that's just me personally.